Folks, it's October, and you know with the end of October comes the October surprises, and Donald Trump is losing it after being pummeled by not just one, but a few October surprises as the election approaches. My name is Brett Meiselas, here with the MeidasTouch Network. Remember to hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3.5 million subscribers, and we can't get there without you. Let me show you this late-night post from Donald Trump last night. He said, quote, "Thank you for your support against a total degenerate named John Kelly, who made up a story out of pure derangement, syndrome, hatred. The guy had two qualities which don't work well together. He was tough and dumb. The problem is his toughness morphed into weakness because he became jello with time. The story about soldiers was a lie, as are numerous other stories he told. Even though I shouldn't be wasting my time with him, I always feel it's necessary to hit back in pursuit of the truth. John Kelly is a lowlife and a bad general whose advice in the White House I no longer sought and told him to move on. His wife once told me at Camp David, John admires you tremendously, and when he leaves the military, he will only speak well of you. I said, thank you. And Donald Trump is bitter because we are hearing audio recordings of John Kelly, a decorated military general in the United States Marine Corps, who was Donald Trump's own chief of staff in the White House. John Kelly speaking out to reporters, letting people know that Donald Trump is a fascist, telling reporters that Donald Trump praised Hitler, that Donald Trump said, quote, "I need the kind of generals that Hitler had," and Donald Trump is furious that this truth is getting out there. Now, who are you going to trust? The guy who lies all the time, the guy who's told more than 30,000 lies, and that was a count, by the way, years ago. We're probably at hundreds of thousands of lies by now, at least. Or a decorated military general who has no reason to tell these lies, somebody who's been respected by all sides, somebody who has not been in politics, but has served our country with grace and with dignity. Donald Trump then also writes, Comrade Kamala Harris sees that she is losing and losing badly, especially after stealing the race from crooked Joe Biden. He still can't get over that. So now she is increasingly raising her rhetoric, going so far as to call me Adolf Hitler and anything else that comes to her warped mind. She is a threat to democracy and not fit to be president of the United States, and her polling so indicates. No, it doesn't. I'll get to that in a little bit. And she's not calling you Adolf Hitler, but you are apparently using Adolf Hitler's playbook. And if you're going to do that, it needs to be called out. We made this graphic here at the MeidasTouch Network, which shows how Donald Trump echoes Hitler's words on the campaign trail virtually verbatim. Like Adolf Hitler said, for example, "I will get rid of the communist vermin." Donald Trump says, "I will get rid of the communist vermin." Adolf Hitler said, "I will take care of the enemy within." Sound familiar? Because Donald Trump in recent weeks has said, "I will take care of the enemy within." Adolf Hitler said Jews and migrants are poisoning Aryan blood. Donald Trump says migrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Hitler's slogan was one people, one realm, one leader. A phrase Donald Trump uses is one people, one family, one glorious nation. So yes, we need to be calling attention to this, and you can't bully people, Donald, into saying that you are not a threat, because you are indeed a threat to our democracy, to the United States of America. Last night, Vice President Kamala Harris did a town hall on CNN. It was a town hall format because this was supposed to be the debate night, but Donald Trump was too afraid to debate, so he was not there. But Vice President Harris showed up and answered questions with real people, real questions, not plants like in that Donald Trump town hall the other day and all of his events, which are staged. And early on, Vice President Harris said that John Kelly, remember, Donald Trump's chief of staff, she said that by him giving interviews in the final stretch of this campaign season, she said that he is, quote, putting out a 911 call to the American people. Watch.
And then today we learned that John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, who was his longest-serving chief of staff, gave an interview recently in the last 2 weeks of this election, talking about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And I think one has to think about, why would someone who served with him, who is not political, a 4-star Marine general, why is he telling the American people now? And frankly, I think of it as he's just putting out a 911 call to the American people. Understand what could happen if Donald Trump were back in the White House. And this time, we must take very seriously those folks who knew him best and who were career people are not going to be there to hold him back.
Then Anderson Cooper, who moderated the event, asked Vice President Kamala Harris if she thinks Donald Trump is a fascist. Here was her response.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military.
Absolutely, 100%. I am so glad that she is not mincing words. If you listen to anything Donald Trump says, it becomes very apparent that he is a fascist, that he does want to lead like an authoritarian. Oh, this is an interesting update that I wanted to share with you. So Vice President Harris on October 29th, just 1 week before Election Day, will be delivering a closing argument speech in Washington, D.C. at the Ellipse near the Capitol. That's the same exact site where Donald Trump spoke just before the January 6th attack. So she wants to draw a contrast there and call attention to Donald Trump's threat, call attention to his attack on our democracy. Speaking of bombshells and October surprises, another story came out yesterday about Donald Trump, this one about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the exclusive story from The Guardian. Donald Trump groped me in what felt like a, quote, twisted game with Jeffrey Epstein, former model alleges. Stacey Williams says the ex-president, whose spokesperson denied the allegations, touched her in an unwanted sexual way in 1993 after Epstein introduced them. And you could see the image that is up right here. That postcard that you see with the writing on it, that's Donald Trump's writing. That's a postcard that he sent her after this incident. That is part of her proof that she has from this incident to let people know that this actually took place. Donald Trump, meanwhile, instead of speaking to the people like Vice President Kamala Harris was doing last night, he was speaking in front of his cult and was just going absolutely off the rails. For example, he's still focused in on the fact that everybody is seeing his cognitive decline, so Donald Trump brought up that people are saying he is cognitively imbalanced. Well, yeah, watch.
So I take the phone and put it down. The sad part is I never picked it up, I forgot. They'll say, he's cognitively imbalanced. He didn't pick up. These people, are they the worst?
And almost immediately after, Donald Trump had a cognitive issue and accidentally said that we will quickly become energy dependent again if he gets elected. Watch this.
But we will quickly become energy dependent again. We weren't energy.
But you know what? Maybe that's just a rare moment of truth from Donald Trump. I mean, the U.S. has achieved energy independence for the first time in 40 years under the Biden-Harris administration. Trump likes to pretend that he had energy independence under his administration. That was a lie. It actually did happen, though, under the Biden-Harris administration. Donald Trump then continued in his recent tradition of bashing Detroit. Watch this.
I have a lot of companies moving. You watch Detroit. Detroit. You know, for 40 years ago, I've been hearing about Detroit's coming back. Never came back.
Yeah, bold move to keep attacking the biggest city in one of the most important swing states this close to Election Day, one that has had a historic resurgence, by the way, and is viewed as an example of the American dream being revived in this country under the Biden-Harris administration. Now, speaking of Donald Trump's cognitive decline, I know we showed this to you, but I got to play it again. This is the new ad from Eric Swalwell that depicts Donald Trump in the home where he really belongs. I love this so much. Watch.
We were so worried.
They're eating the dogs.
He wasn't making any sense.
The people come in. They're eating the cats.
And he just kept getting worse.
They did dumps. That's what they call them, dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Gross.
In Michigan and Pennsylvania. All over.
We had to do something.
They will take the life of the child in the 9th month. Even after birth, they'll execute the baby.
You sound crazy right now.
Then a friend told us there was somewhere he could get the help he so desperately needed, called A Place for Trump.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Now he has round-the-clock support and can enjoy the things he loves, like eating cheeseburgers and rage posting at 3 a.m.
I know windmills very much, and they're driving the whales, I think, a little batty.
Sure.
So this November, let's vote to put him in a place for Trump, because we all know he belongs in a home, just not this one.
I have concepts of a plan.
Of course you do.
In other news, the Justice Department has sent Elon Musk's PAC a warning letter, letting them know that it is a crime to do what they are doing, which is offering $1 million to people who are registered to vote in the state of Pennsylvania in this lottery system that they are doing. They said it's a crime to knowingly offer anything of value to register to vote, citing U.S. law barring vote buying with penalties of up to 5 years in jail. This is the DOJ's first step. Now the ball is in Musk's court, and depending on what he does, the DOJ will take action from there. And speaking of Donald Trump's stooges, there was this incredibly creepy, weird, fascistic moment before Donald Trump took the stage at his event in Georgia, where Tucker Carlson expressed his vision of a Trump presidency, comparing Trump to a dad. He kept calling Trump daddy throughout his speech, and comparing regular Americans to a 15-year-old girl. And he said that Donald Trump would need to punish this bad little girl and give her a, quote, vigorous spanking and hurt her. Huh? Watch this.
If you allow your 2-year-old to smear the contents of his diapers on the wall of your living room, and you do nothing about it, if you allow your 14-year-old to light a joint at the breakfast table, if you allow your hormone-addled 15-year-old daughter to slam the door of her bedroom and give you the finger, you're gonna get more of it. And those kids are gonna wind up in rehab. It's not good for you, and it's not good for them. No. There has to be a point at which dad comes home. Yeah, that's right. Dad comes home. And he's pissed. Dad is pissed. He's not vengeful. He loves his children. Disobedient as they may be, he loves them. Because they're his children, they live in his house. But he's very disappointed in their behavior. And he's gonna have to let them know. He's gonna have to get to your room right now and think about what you did. And when dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl, and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now. And no, it's not gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it's not. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl. And it has to be this way. It has to be this way because it's true. And you're only gonna get better when you take responsibility for what you did. That's not said in the spirit of hate. It's not said in the spirit of vengeance or bigotry. Far from it. It's said in the spirit of justice, which is the purest and best thing there is. And without it, things fall apart.
Yeah, they are not beating the weird allegations. They are not beating the fascist allegations. That is scary stuff. And remember, that was the opening for Donald Trump. That was before Donald Trump came on stage. That's what the people in that arena were listening to. It's just completely bizarre, unhinged, and quite frankly, horrifying to see that in the United States of America. And just plain weird, as I said before. I want to show you some of these polls only because it feels like the media only likes to focus on bad news for Vice President Kamala Harris because they want to create this narrative of her losing momentum and Trump gaining momentum, like they always do, by the way, for Democratic candidates leading up to an election. So let me show you a few polls from the past 24 hours that tell a different story. Here's the new Monmouth poll. This is an A-rated poll, which shows Vice President Kamala Harris up 3 against Donald Trump, 48% to 45%. And when that's just with extremely motivated voters, Kamala Harris has a 5-point lead over Donald Trump. In the Quinnipiac polls in Michigan and Wisconsin, we saw a plus 7% shift towards Vice President Kamala Harris since their last poll, with Vice President Harris now leading that 49% to 46%. And in Wisconsin, we saw a 2% shift to Vice President Harris versus their last poll, and now that poll is tied at 48% at 48%. A new Bloomberg poll finds that, quote, on every economic issues surveyed, Kamala Harris has closed the trust gap or even surpassed Trump as the candidate that swing state voters trust more. And in a new poll from the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, it shows member support for Harris growing significantly in the battleground states. Union members in key states including Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, Harris leads by 22 points. Among white UAW members without a college degree, Harris now holds a 5-point lead. And additionally, the poll finds that Harris's lead expands to 29 points among those who say they have been contacted by the union. Michigan UAW members favor Harris by a 20-point margin, with 54% supporting her compared to 34% for Trump. Support among non-college educated men, a key demographic, shows a 14-point margin in favor of Harris, and UAW members support U.S. Senate candidate Alyssa Slotkin by an 18-point margin. So I just want to show you those polls because you see what Donald Trump does. He tries to select other polls in order to try to portray this concept of strength and that he is so inevitable, but that is simply not true. Now, let's get on from the polls. I want to show you some hard data for a second. Here's some hard data from Michigan. This is vote by mail and absentee analysis. With 27% of registered voters requesting a ballot, trends continue to mirror 2020, and 2022 passed Democratic advantage in the early vote, creating a firewall with likely Democratic ballots outnumbering the Republican Party by 489,000 ballots. And when you look at the ballots that have been submitted on a gender basis, not every state does this, but a handful of states do, you see that women are submitting ballots at a much higher rate than men, which also bodes well for Vice President Kamala Harris. You see, of the submitted ballots already in these states where they keep track of that sort of thing, females account for 54.2% of the vote compared to 44.1% of men. That is a big gap, and we've seen what that gap means in these sorts of elections in a post-Roe world. I want to also show you this. This is an incredible video. This is from the University of Wisconsin. They just started voting in Wisconsin this week. Watch as hundreds of people march to the polls. There's with this rapper, Young Gravy. He's a big popular rapper among young people. Ask your kids about it. This is so awesome to see, and I just love to see this enthusiasm from Gen Z. So as Trump continues to lash out from these horrific stories that are being released about him, and by the way, it ain't done yet. I'm sure we will hear even more as we approach Election Day. Vice President Kamala Harris is meeting voters where they are, is putting in the work, and we are seeing the results of that. And I want to be clear here. This race is a toss-up. It could go either way. Like I said before, we have some polls that show Vice President Kamala Harris up. We have some polls that show her down. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, and anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. But here's what we all have to do. We all have to get to the polls and vote. So if you're able to early vote right now, make sure you go do it. If you have a mail-in ballot at home waiting for you, ready to fill out, do it right now. This is the most important election of our lifetimes, so make sure that you get involved in our democracy and make sure everybody you know who is pro-democracy gets involved as well and is going to the polls. Now is the time to step on the gas every single day until Election Day. All right, thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe. We're on our way to 3.5 million subscribers, and we can't get there without you. If you're already subscribed, hit the notification bell. You'll get alerted anytime we post a new video. And also add the MeidasTouch podcast on audio. Wherever you get audio podcasts, add it. Leave a 5-star review. All right, thanks again. I'll see you soon.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.